So one of the things that I know about me is one of my sabotage strategies, if we want to use that language. One of the ways that I get in my own way is that I overschedule. So I don't honor my calendar all the time. So I'll say like, sure, I can do that, right? Or someone wants to coach with me, or someone wants a discovery call. Well, I'm just going to slide them into here, even though there's already something booked that's, me time or content creation time or something, right? So, and this started happening to me this is a pattern, right? So I've learned to recognize it a lot quicker. And when it happens, I need to step back. So this happened to me at the beginning of the year. And I needed to really step back from that and say, okay, you're getting into overwhelm. You know your pattern. You're starting to overschedule. So I looked at my calendar and I restructured because I was realizing a lot of my clients wanted to meet early in the week and I was having my content creation early in the week. So I just redid my calendar in a way that felt really good to me. I was doing some things on the weekends and I'm like, why am I doing this on the weekend? I can do this on a Friday. And so I ended up moving things around, which really made me feel a lot more expansive. And really, again, it's that awareness of like, when do I start feeling this way?
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Vera Ilnyckyj, whose mission to help women live genuine, fulfilled, and positive lives through their business stems from her recognition that too many female solopreneurs get stuck in overwhelm and distracted by things that don't truly matter. What sets Vera apart is her understanding that women entrepreneurs don't need more hustle or generic business advice, but clear direction, strategic planning, and aligned action steps supported by someone who will genuinely cheer them on and hold them accountable. Vera specializes in helping female solopreneurs who are ready to dream big and confidently up level to their next chapter, focusing on reducing overwhelm while helping them connect with their intuition and values. Her approach proves that when you combine clear goals with strategic support and encouragement, women can accelerate their business growth, impact, and income while staying true to what matters most to them. Welcome to the show, Vera.
Thanks so much, Pedro. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and I'm a comic book nerd myself. I always go back to the first edition, the origin story. So let's rewind a bit, okay?
Hey.
Because every coach has that moment when they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? So when was that for you, Vera?
I think I've had a couple of moments like that, Pedro, actually. The very first one was I was just about turning 30 and I was really struggling with my purpose and not sure what I wanted to do. I didn't feel happy in my career. I was not married. I didn't really have a person, a personal relationship with anybody. And I was just feeling really stuck. And a friend of the family suggested that I see a friend of hers who was a life coach. And I was like, what's a life coach? So that was my very first kind of introduction into coaching, life coaching, and thinking about my life in a bit of a different way, which was really goal oriented. So that was for my first experience with working with a coach. And in the back of my mind, I thought this would be a really cool thing to do. And I think that I would be really good at it. But of course, it took me quite a long time after that to actually step into coaching. But that was my first introduction to that.
Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
And I'm curious about what I usually call the shift, because at the start, you're helping people, you're testing waters and coaching, right? And sometimes I see a lot of coaches trying to help everyone, or put it like that. And there's a shift from I'm helping people to I'm building a real business around this, I'm not sure if it's the first paying client, the first invoice, but walk me through, how did that look like for you?
Mhm. Well, I mean, I just shared my story about how I got into coaching in the first place, or how I got introduced to coaching in the first place. But fast forward a few years, I had gotten married and then I went through a divorce. And shortly after my divorce, I got fired from a job. So I was feeling really rock bottom at that point, like rejected. Nobody loved me. No one wanted to work with me. No one wanted to be with me. And I was really struggling at that point. And, I always say that I'm really grateful for that opportunity that happened to me, even though it was negative and it was really challenging and it was a really dark time in my life. But I also started developing tools and resources and really deciding how I wanted to be in my life and what was really important to me. And that was the first time that I started to take control of my life, my career, my personal life, my values. I got really in tune with what was important to me. I went to counseling, I hired a coach. And so it was really awesome to start moving forward, with my goals. And I started coaching people sort of on the side, so to speak, outside of my corporate job. And I knew that at some point I wanted to do this for a living full time, but I just wasn't really sure how I was going to do that. And so I was building out my coaching business and I was doing doing my corporate work, and that wasn't really working. So I set the coaching aside for a little bit. And then when COVID hit, which is probably a story you hear lots of times on your podcast and in your interactions with people, it really got me thinking, okay, no, now's the time to step away from corporate. I need to build my own business because the world is uncertain. We don't really know what's going on. And I wanted to rely on myself and not anybody else for my income. And also people needed help. People were really struggling. There was a lot of things going on, and I really wanted to be in a place where I could support people from a positive and optimistic perspective as opposed to all the fear that was going on. And I really made a decision that I didn't want to get sucked into the fear. And so I really wanted to start helping people on a more positive level. But again, it took me still took me a little bit of time to actually leave my corporate job and step into full-time entrepreneurship. And even then I was like, oh, I'm just going to tell everyone that I'm coaching full time and then the people will come. And I realized pretty quickly that that's not really how business works. I needed to really develop some skills. I had a marketing background. I have 2 marketing degrees, but marketing for yourself is a whole other story. And so how do you self-promote? Who's your ideal client? How do you message it out? How do I niche down? How do I build a website? What do I need to do? How do I sell, right? How do I have a sales process? And that was really the big shift for me was, okay, I need to learn sales. I need to learn how to market. I need to learn how to get out there and actually grow this business. It's not just something it's just not something that people just don't show up at your door saying, hey, I want to work with you. You really do need to put yourself out there and be visible and be vulnerable. And that was really when I started shifting around into, okay, I need to think like a business person. And I have a business degree. So I needed to put my business hat on and really think strategically about who it is that I wanted to serve. And I started off helping women who had been going through a divorce or a job loss because that was my lived experience and that was who I really wanted to help. But to your point, I wanted to help everybody, and we know that doesn't really work in marketing. It doesn't really work in sales. You do need to niche down, and even niching down to women who had been going through a divorce or job loss took a bit of it really, I had to really reflect on that because it was really hard to do because I thought, oh, if I just focus on divorce, if I just focus on job loss, then what about all the other people that I could help? And it felt really scary to do that initially. But the more that I did that, the easier it got to actually message people, and to really call out who my ideal client was. So that's how I started off initially, was in my niche. That was my niche initially when I started off my business.
I love the positioning masterclass. Appreciate it. Okay. That's one thing because it's very abstract in the coaching space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people don't grasp, well, okay, but what exactly are going to help me with?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
What does a better version of myself means? That's another thing. And also, second point, a great catalyst, right? COVID. Yes, I hear a lot of stories from that. So
Mm-hmm.
great point on that. But
Mm-hmm.
then again, love the reminders. Okay, now I feel the need because you kind of future tell exactly my next question. So I'm going to skip that. Okay.
Okay.
Usually I ask who do you serve? Basically, you kind of nailed that already. We're talking about women, solopreneurs, and you had your own path to find that niche right now, which
Mm-hmm.
is divorced and job loss
Mm-hmm.
from women also. So I appreciate that. Now let's do a quick exercise if you don't mind.
Okay.
William?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Well, you have the option to say no, right?
Well, I know I do.
Not.
But why
Well,
say no when you can say yes? Let's do it.
exactly. Let's do it. Okay. So here's the thing. I want to pretend. Well, I'm going to throw it a little bit different. Usually I pretend to be the ICP, the ideal client profile at this stage. I'm not
Okay.
going to do that. I have a long distance cousin called Pedro. Okay. She lives in Brazil. That's your ICP. Let's say okay. She's you can help her. She's a women solopreneur and all of that. Let's pretend you can help her. So marketing wise, first, how exactly would she able to find you? in the first place?
Find me?
Yes,
Okay.
marketing wise.
Yeah, marketing wise. So, number of different ways. So I'm pretty active on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And I also do a lot of free workshops, so online workshops. And that's how I started off growing my business, as I was holding workshops, and now, holding workshops again for women solopreneurs specifically. So that's probably the number one way. If she happened to be in Calgary, then I also have a community that I run for women solopreneurs. So that was actually how I niched down even further, Pedro. We kind of have the origin story about starting off working with women that had gone through a divorce or job loss. But what I was finding was that I was feeling really alone in my business and a bit isolated because I came from corporate. And so I was used to having a big team and having people around me. And I kept saying to my coach that I wish that there was a support group for women entrepreneurs, which, as entrepreneurs, we just start off our own group. So I started off my own group, which has now grown. So it started off with just coffee chat with other women solopreneurs, and now it's grown to a really big community. We meet in person, we meet online. But what I really realized was that I loved working with women entrepreneurs because I love their mindset. They have lots of ideas. They're very ambitious. And that's how I shifted from women who had gone through a divorce or job loss to working with women solopreneurs. So I do find that sometimes we find our niche, or our niche finds us, the more that we work with people. So we start with what we know and with what we think is the best thing. And then we sort of start determining, well, who is it that I really love to work with? So if your cousin was here in Calgary, I would invite her into an in-person session of our Fempreneur Success Collective, and she could find me through that.
Okay. Fun fact. Pedro is very bold and courageous. She went to Canada, Calgary. Okay. She
Awesome.
lives there right next to you. Okay. Now, second part of the exercise. Pedro went through the entire sales process. Let's keep that part. And let's say there's alignment. I'll put it like that. Okay. She's being onboarded. And I understand you may have different offers. Okay. But let's pretend it's the main one, or however you want to tell me how that looks like. But walk me through the point of view of Pedro. Okay, being onboarded, how does it look like to work with you, and what are the potential outcomes she expects out of it?
So the biggest challenge that I find with my clients is that they're feeling overwhelmed by all of their ideas, and they're not really sure where to start. So that's the number one thing. It's like, I have all these ideas. Number two is they know they need to be more visible. So your cousin's bold, he's courageous, she moved here, but a lot of women are held back by their own beliefs, or their own limiting beliefs, their old stories, or thoughts that aren't their own, and they're really held back by being more visible on social media. That's the number one thing that I see is, I don't know what to say, or I want to say it in the right way, or what if I say something wrong and someone gets mad at me, or whatever is going on in our heads about showing up on social media, or showing up at a networking event, or showing up somewhere where we need to talk about our story. So it's really helping women get clear on a couple of things: what their vision is, like what they want their business to be about. Why do they have their business? What are some of their big dreams? And then we narrow that down into what are your goals, and then how do you get there, right? Like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to actually start reaching some of those goals without getting overwhelmed and without getting pulled into all the shiny objects, because there's a lot of stuff going on externally, right? There's a lot of noises, voices telling us, do this, do that, and you should be doing that, and what about that? And I find that a lot of times we really get disconnected from our own intuition because we have all this stuff going on around us. So I work a lot with women in getting clear on connecting with themselves and what their dreams are, what they really want, what's important to them, what their energy is like, when do they feel energized during the week or during the day, what feels good to them, and who do they really want to serve, and then really getting them comfortable to take those action steps, because sometimes we need someone to help us along the way, hold our hand and encourage us, and kind of like, nudge us out there and say, it's okay, you can do this. And someone needs to hear your story. So, those are kind of the two main things. And then obviously getting clear on the messaging, your ideal client, how to run a workshop, kind of those practical, tactical things as well. But so much of it is in our mind, is how do we actually get out of our own way and learn to create that confidence for ourselves, and learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because entrepreneurship is uncomfortable. Putting yourself out there can feel uncomfortable, but it's just a feeling. It's not going to last, and it's okay. Nothing bad's going to happen to you because you've said something on social media, right? Especially if you're coming at it from a great intention. And it's just always connecting back to like what's really important to you and what your dream is, and how do you stay connected to that.
Okay. Interesting. Now, I'm going to throw you the first curveball if you don't mind. Okay. I'm not sure if I told you, but I'm a coach too, right? And I see a lot of coaches out there advocating against burnout,
Hmm.
but at the same time, they're burning out themselves, right?
Mm,
Your work seems pretty hands on. We're talking about business development, we're talking about events, a customized approach. Right.
hmm. Hmm.
So, Vera, how do you think about capacity so you don't stretch yourself too thin?
So I'm going to share something that I actually decided to do this year because what I was finding last year was that I wasn't really always honoring my own self-care and my own capacity. So one of the things that I know about me is one of my sabotage strategies, if we want to use that language. One of the ways that I get in my own way is that I overschedule. So I don't honor my calendar all the time. So I'll say like, sure, I can do that, right? Or someone wants to coach with me, or someone wants a discovery call. Well, I'm just going to slide them into here, even though there's already something booked that's, me time or content creation time or something, right? So, and this started happening to me this is a pattern, right? So I've learned to recognize it a lot quicker. And when it happens, I need to step back. So this happened to me at the beginning of the year. And I needed to really step back from that and say, okay, you're getting into overwhelm. You know your pattern. You're starting to overschedule. So I looked at my calendar and I restructured because I was realizing a lot of my clients wanted to meet early in the week and I was having my content creation early in the week. So I just redid my calendar in a way that felt really good to me. I was doing some things on the weekends and I'm like, why am I doing this on the weekend? I can do this on a Friday. And so I ended up moving things around, which really made me feel a lot more expansive and really, again, it's that awareness of like, when do I start feeling this way? And the other thing that I also started doing is having weekly check-ins. So weekly CEO time, I call it, where I sit down for an hour and I review my past week, like what went well, what didn't go so well, and how do I want to show up next week from my learnings from this week. And I've been very committed to that and very consistent with that. And that has been a real game changer because it allows me to not judgmentally, but like with kind of their business hat on and look at it objectively as a CEO, like where are you letting some of your boundaries slide or what's working or what's not working, and just adjusting and shifting as you move forward. So I find that doing that consistently has been super helpful for me to not get into that burnout or that capacity issue because it happens, right? We're all entrepreneurs and we could work all the time. And I don't know about you, Pedro, but I'm sure we're the same way. Where there's always ideas going on in my head, right? Even if
Mm.
I'm relaxing or watching a Netflix show or I'm somewhere having a coffee, but ideas will come into my head. Oh, that's a good idea, right? So constantly writing things down. So we're always involved in our business, but it is really important to have that time where you can just step away and think about things a little bit differently.
Mm. Well, 3 points, right, about what you just said. First one is interesting how you reorganize the calendar, right? Considering the pattern recognition, you're like, okay, I'm just going to move this because people tend to want to connect with me at the start of the week. So I like that. Really important. The second point is, well, the TV show that hits home, right? Sometimes I'm watching stupid stuff just because I don't want to think about things, right? It's just like turning my brain off. And well, eventually that's what my kids watch, so I'm right there with them. The last thing is like, don't you feel like it's interesting how well I had a corporate job, I worked at banking, you had your own career, I had like also consulting firm Ernest and Young, and whenever I clocked out, I really clocked. I was like hitting home and saying sayonara to everyone, right? At 5 or 6 p.m., whatever that looks like. But when you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, it sounds like that never stops, right? And sometimes work doesn't really feel like work.
Hmm.
Feels like fun
Hmm.
sometimes. How to set up the boundaries, because I really struggle with that, Vera.
And it's true. It is fun. When I was in corporate, there was I mean, I had great jobs and I had a great career, lots of good opportunities, but most days I woke up not feeling like I wanted to go. Like I always had a bit of a dread at the pit of my stomach, like, oh, I got to talk to that person, or, oh, I have this
Mm,
deadline. Like I always knew there was a bit of a misalignment there. I don't feel that since I started my business. Like I don't care if it's Saturday or Monday or Wednesday. Like I'm excited about the day. Like, what do I have today? I have a podcast interview today with Pedro. I get to see some clients this afternoon, right? Like later this week. So it doesn't matter to me. I never know what day it is, right? Because it doesn't really matter. I'm not waiting for Friday and I'm not dreading Monday. Like today's Monday and I'm having an awesome day. And it is true. It's really hard sometimes to disconnect. So it's having that intention and setting it up in your calendar and creating space that's time away from your business, time away from your computer, and intentionally doing things that are with your family, intentionally doing things that are for yourself, whether it's getting a massage or going to the gym, because we're not just work, right? Like, yes, we think
Mm.
about work, and yes, we love our work, and yes, we love helping people, but we also need to look after ourselves. And this is something I say to my clients all the time. It's like we have to look after us first, because otherwise, how can we really have the energy to look after our clients and customers if we're not filled up? And yes, my work fills me up. I love what I do, and it fills my cup and it fills my heart, but it's energy out. And I also want to focus on my health, and I want to focus on my strength, and I want to focus on other creative pursuits and having fun. And I have a partner, so I want to focus on my personal relationships and my family relationships. So we need to allow ourselves time to do that. And we can't just always be thinking about just working all the time in the business, because this is not going to do anybody any good.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you one thing because I think it serves both for eventually your women solopreneurs and also the coaches listening, which is the pricing topic, because that's a hot one. And I'm not talking about hard numbers, right? I'm talking about the mindset behind it. And especially the coaching space and service based industries, it's a very self worth path, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's trading your time for dollars. So, how do you think about it today, and were there any lessons along the way that shaped how you landed where you are right now, specifically about pricing?
It's such a good question, and it's such a big challenge for service-based providers, because there really is no set thing, and it really is about how much value you believe that you are offering to your clients. And I'm still on this journey, because I still is every day I'm like, I should really raise my price on that. Like, I'm offering so much value. I'm getting so much amazing feedback. Like, why am I giving this away for free, or why am I giving that away for free, kind of thing, right? It's definitely a journey, and it's really embracing your value and the work, and really being aware of what people are saying and how you're seeing them change and evolve, especially as a coach, right? Because a lot of times the breakthroughs or the aha moments don't happen in the coaching session. I mean, when they do, that's awesome. When someone has like a massive aha moment or something in the session, that's great. But so often it takes a little bit of time. It takes work on their end in between. Like I say, a lot of times that breakthroughs come in between the sessions. So we're not always like there when it's happening. So it's being really aware of like, but from the time that I started working with them to like seeing those milestones and watching them grow and do things differently, and just being really aware of that and acknowledging them for that. But then also saying, well, I helped facilitate that. Like, they did the work, but I held space for them. I asked questions. I gave them some tools, or I gave them a couple of suggestions, or, I was just there, just helped, I was just holding energy for that person, or send them an encouraging note. And it's being really, really acknowledging you for the value that you bring. And, like I said, I'm still on the journey. Like, I still think there's ways that I need to, increase my prices, because I know that I'm offering a lot of value. And a lot of times it is that fear of like, well, who's going to pay for that? Right? Who
Mm,
am I to charge more when you see somebody else that's, you think in our little twisted minds that they're doing better than you, or they're more qualified than you. And so it's really battling those demons of that being comparing ourselves to other people, or not feeling good enough, or not feeling worthy enough to receive more payment for the value
mm.
that you bring.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see a lot of coaches out there burning themselves out in a way, specifically about pricing. It's like they try to offer their services for free,
Mm,
and people are no show or don't take it. And they're like, if people are not paying, are not even taking it for free, how am I going to charge? Right. But that's backwards, at least in my opinion, because if sometimes people perceive free as worthless,
mhm,
and there's no commitment, also no skin in the game. So
mhm.
they eventually book a call and never show up or something like that. I'm
Yep.
not sure if you agree with that, but I see a lot of coaches, shooting themselves in the foot. Put
I
it like that.
1,000% agree with that. Now, I think there's a time and place for free things, like a free a free workshop, or a free checklist, or a free ebook. Like, I think that there's, and obviously the work that you do, you have free podcasts. Like, I have tons of content that's free. I do videos all the time. I'm on podcasts. I run a weekly newsletter. I'm always creating content. I have free things that I can offer to people in terms of tools and resources. So there's a time and place. Some of it's lead generation. Some of it's, hey, I just want to give back to my community. I'm going to offer something for free. So it's having that intention. But there definitely needs to be an exchange of value of some sort, no matter what, even if it's a free offer, if it's a free workshop, there needs to be some level of exchange. Like, I'm going to ask for your email address. I'm going to ask for your phone number. I'm going to ask for a testimonial, right? I'm going to ask for your time to listen to me explain how I can help you more. So it's in our mind, there has to be that value exchange. Now, in terms of hard dollars, 1,000% there needs to be a commitment to that. There's accountability in that. There's also a worthiness in that. When you pay for something that you want, you elevate your own worth in your own mind and you step into this next version of yourself, right? If you're the type of person that says, I just want things for free, what is that saying about how you think about yourself? Like, you're worth paying for yourself, right? Like, when people say, and I've done this before in the past where it's like, well, I can't really afford to go get a massage. Well, how can you not afford to get a massage? Do you not care about yourself? But you denying yourself things because they're quote unquote expensive. It's like, but you deserve that. You deserve to. And I had a coach tell me, this was a number of years ago. I was working with a coach. And she said, buy yourself something that you really want every single week. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Like, so for me, it was flowers. Like, I just bought myself fresh flowers, right? Because my story was, why would I spend $15 or $20 on this bouquet of flowers from the grocery store? Like, that's frivolous, as opposed to like, I deserve that. So it's the same when you exchange money for something that you want. Like, you want to grow as a person, you need to pay for that, right? You want to get fit at the gym, hire a personal trainer. Like, your body is worth that. So I think it's how we think about it in both directions, as a business owner and also as someone who buys things, right? So if you're a coach and you feel weird about charging, it's like, well, where in your life do you feel weird about buying and investing in yourself? Because they're related. So you need to also learn to receive and like invest in yourself so that people can then invest in the service that you're offering. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking about like the logic, how it is backwards. Like, when I deserve X, Y, and Z, I'll have X, Y, and Z, right? But you deserve it right now. You deserve the flowers or deserve everything. You're ready, right? It's not something you need to wait to do so. So I see where you're coming from. Now, I'm curious about where you're taking all this. Shifting gears for a second, talking about future, Vera, looking ahead. Where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is there a next step you're excited about?
Yeah. So a couple of things. I just joined forces with my business partner late last fall. So that's kind of a one step towards like doing more and scaling and growing, is doing it with somebody else, because obviously that like helps us do more work together and we can offer more value and therefore more income coming in. From a scaling perspective, I've done a really great job of building out a local community and of having clients that are in my geographical area. But how to scale is doing it online and virtually. So building up the community, building out things that are online so that we can reach more people. So, that's in terms of kind of a short to medium term goal, is really building out. And we have a mastermind for women entrepreneurs called the Business Accelerator Mastermind, where we meet online on a consistent basis, on a weekly basis. And so I really see that growing because there's lots of opportunities, lots of potential for that. Women really need that consistency and also that time to put their CEO hat on and think about their business from a strategic perspective, get support from other women, and also know that they're not alone. So from a scaling perspective, that's where I see things going. And from a hiring perspective, I have a VA that I just hired recently. So again, she's helping me with repurposing my social media content and repurposing some of my content. So not creating it and not writing it, but definitely I have a ton of content. And so helping me repurpose it and stay on track. And I can see that going further as well in terms of, helping me with other things down the road as well, like more administrative kind of tasks. Because we just can't do it. No one can do everything on their own. So that's kind of, adding on some contract workers or consultants that can help with other things like the social media or automation and those types of things.
Okay. So it sounds like it's gonna happen a retreat real soon, or am I tripping here?
No,
Is that a
no,
plan?
I've held a couple of retreats in the past couple of years, which has been really fun. So we'll still do some in-person things. We're actually planning a retreat in Mexico early in 2027, so February 2027. So, that's going to be a really fun way to bring women in person and do some business planning and business stuff on the beach and have a little bit of fun, because we need to have some fun too in our businesses. It's not all serious, right?
Mm.
So yes, definitely more retreats happening, definitely, in-person things happening, but also the online mastermind, I think this is where we really want to grow it too.
Interesting. We just threw our retreat 2 weeks ago at Mexico, by the way,
Nice.
Tulum. Yeah.
Nice.
So just
Awesome.
just
Awesome.
coaches. So you can imagine how fun that
A
was.
lot
Now,
of fun.
of course, whenever we're building something towards the next chapter, always something we're refining in the present. So what are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business right now, Vera?
Right now, it is having a more solidified customer journey, because I sort of had everyone going through the same process, but now, I have different tiers of offers and different offers. And so it's building out that customer journey for each one of those and having it automated. Because right now I do a lot of things manually. So I really want to get in and automate things. So like a welcome sequence, an email sequence when people join certain things. What does that look like? What did they get in the emails? What kind of other value can we offer them? And automating some of that. So that's what I'm really focused on right now.
Okay. Yeah, the path off the lead, several tracks, several ways to do things, and how we can, upsell or downsell,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like. So I love that. I love that talk. Okay. Now, if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, Vera, and we're going to have all the links in the description.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what's the best way to find you and connect with you?
The best thing is to hop on my website, createyourbestchapter.com. All of my other, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and my LinkedIn are all on there as well. People can connect with me that way, but all the information is on my website.
Okay. There were a few things you shared today. Really stay with me and feel the need to highlight them. Okay. Let's start with the origin story. When you mentioned you were divorced, far from a job, and that really hits home. I went through some tough patches. I put it like that too. And sometimes you're like avoiding the easy conversations that doesn't sound like easy. It's like, hey, how are you doing? Right. And you're not doing great. And you don't want to explain, but you at the same time, you don't want to lie. So sometimes it's the birthday parties that get me. Right. It's like, I was just avoiding stuff. At the end of the day, I was avoiding myself, So I understand where you're coming from. And I appreciate the vulnerability of expressing those obstacles, those challenges you went through. So thank you for that. Okay, sharing so openly. Also, another powerful reminder the CEO had, right? When you're talking about the shift, what happens when you became a true business owner and you're like, there's business development, there's sales, how to market. So more often than not, we see coaches very comfortable with the coaching hat, the practice itself, but they often forget about there's a whole bunch of stuff they need to do: follow up, admin, accounting, bookkeeping, whatever that looks like, So
Mm-hmm.
I love the reminder. Last but not least, the exchange of value, even if it's free. That's your quote. I just stole it. Okay. Sorry about that. But it always brings me back to a meme I looked up on the internet, which is basically a perception of value meme. It's a fridge on a sidewalk with saying free. Take it, stays there for a week. Then one day someone puts a price tag, $50, and it vanishes, right? Because people have this perception, unfortunately, that if it's free, it's worthless. So I like that. The exchange, right? Sometimes it's a testimonial if you're building your practice. Sometimes it's even to stress test some offers,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. So I really like the exchange. I'll put it like this. Now, Vera, I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today. Okay, it was great having you on.
Thank you so much. It was really fun being here. Thanks, Pedro.
Editor, cut here. Boing.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.